Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. I see the time is 10 a.m. Friday, July 25th, and I'd like to call this a special council meeting of the Harrison Hot Springs Village Council to order. I'd like to acknowledge that this meeting takes place on the traditional territory of Stahlis. Introduction of late items is next on our agenda. I have one, and Councillor Basho, perhaps I'll go with mine first.
Please, Your
and then
Worship.
get to yours. There may have been an my late item will be to introduce you, CEO Cook.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, could you speak up a little, please? No,
Sure. I introduced CAO Cook. I've been advised of a administrative error in some of what we normally post on the meeting, so I'll turn it over to you, CAO Cook.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Worship. Unfortunately, we had a bit of a misstep, and that is my fault, so I have to apologize to council. Staff did post the agenda at the 3 posting places. However, we failed to post the agenda on our website in time prior to the 24-hour requirement. So we will be seeking a motion from council to waive the notice requirements. And just for council's edification is that if it does not receive full participation or unanimous decision, this meeting will have to be adjourned and we'll have to reconvene at a later date. I do apologize for that oversight. So I'll be seeking a motion from council to waive notice for the requirements of this meeting.
Thank you, CEO Cook.
So moved, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Basho, seconded by Councillor Vital. Discussion. Councillor Schweiman.
Mayor Town, through you to CEO Cook, could you explain the nature, like what did we miss? Have we met the legal requirements to hold a meeting today?
So yes and no, not totally. So we have, out of our 3 posting locations, we had the agenda posted. We did have the date, time, and place on our website. It was already there. However, the fact that the agenda was not posted on the website, which contains the agenda, the information that's going to be the subject of the meeting, and it would have been signed from either the corporate officer or the mayor, that was not present. So that one component was not met. However, we did have it on the website by 3 o'clock-ish yesterday, I think.
2 days ago. Oh, the agenda package.
Yeah, the agenda package was about 3 o'clock yesterday.
So, sorry.
Go ahead.
So notice of the meeting was given in good time, but the details of it didn't come out until within the 24-hour period.
Just on the website, correct.
But it was the agenda, the details of the agenda was given in the public places, is that right? And the correct physical copy of it, but not on social media or not on our website.
Correct.
And sorry,
Go ahead,
through you,
Councillor
Mayor,
Schweiman.
if I could. If we make decisions today, what we're heard today, is it going to be considered a meeting? Are things binding if we make a decision today?
If we pass it.
Through your,
I believe yes.
yes, thank you, Your Worship. It will be if we receive unanimous decision from council to waive notice, then yes, it will. And if we don't, then the meeting will need to adjourn.
I see a number of people in the gallery, so I know this meeting hasn't been kept a secret in the details that they came out a little bit later. I would think we would proceed with the meeting. Any further discussion? I'll call a vote. All in favor? And that carries unanimously for that motion.
Thank you, Your Worship.
All right. Councillor Fascio, did you have an additional introduction of late item?
Yes, thank you, Worship. Following the license for discussion, I would like to add as B, discussion on the second phase of the property as our plans were put together regarding the rental and the village office and chambers for discussion.
Okay, a motion to add that as an item B. And that is just, if you could just summarize it again. for me.
Yeah, just to follow the civic lands master plan regarding the second phase. Over and above what we're going to discuss first regarding the seniors home, that we also should be, I'd like to discuss where are we going in regards to the second phase of the rental building with the chambers and the village office, as per the open house and everything else.
Moved by Councillor Fascio, is there a second to the motion? Second, Councillor Jackson seconds it. Any discussion on that motion to add that as a B item? Seeing none, I'll call a vote. All in favor? That also carries
Thank you.
unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Fascio. Any other late items to introduce this morning? Thank you. Item 4 on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Could I have a motion to that effect, please? Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Any discussion on that? I'll call the vote. All in favor, and our agenda is approved unanimously. As amended, yes. It's all changed early. Items for discussion, item A. Corporate officer, can I turn that over to you?
Yeah, thank you. We have Diane Jansen and Sabrina and Chelsea is here as well. They presented at the June 16th regular council meeting, and they have a PowerPoint. Give the clicker, you're good. I think Tyler's gonna load it up for us. We'll just bear with us for one moment. They're just gonna present on the application.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to provide information on a topic that we had discussed at the last meeting. There's been a lot of work done. I wanted to in particular thank Mayor and Council for allowing us the opportunity to develop this concept more fully, and to the staff as well from the village in terms of their support. We feel that there's been enough work done and a lot of work done to get us to the point where we're ready for a BC housing application. But wanted to bring these a number of matters back to you in terms of the work that we've done to seek your support for the next steps. So that generally is, we're going to be going through a range of topics, including senior housing needs, the opportunity and process, the work to date, support from the community, the design, and the next steps. So you've seen our faces here before. So you know Sabrina, who is from Terra Social Housing. They do a lot of consultation with organizations across BC in terms of BC housing projects. Chelsea is an architect who works significantly in this area, and I believe also has worked in village affairs. I won't read this. I did want to let you know, however, that we serve approximately 1,000 seniors every year, and we do it through a range of programs, including driving programs, social connection programs. We do income tax for seniors, link them to things like the federal dental program, the homeowners grant. We do Better at Home, which enables individuals to stay in their homes by helping them with daily housekeeping as well as yard work. We are establishing a 3-day program for seniors in the fall that will involve 3 days a week of opportunities for people to undertake recreation, social, cultural, and meals as well. And that's called TAPS, Therapeutic Activation Program for Seniors. We did not come up with that name. And so we, one of the key things that we do every year is to support seniors. I do have 2 of our staff here, Fiona and Eunice, who I know there are a number of organizations here supporting this concept. And so what we view is housing as a key piece in the puzzle of support for seniors to age in place and to stay in their community. And I think it's been mentioned before, 32% of Village of Harrison residents are over 65. That's compared to 20% for the province. So being here for seniors, we view is a key part of our work. The senior housing need has been expressed very clearly in data and in reports, basically indicating that there's a critical supply of 80 units of housing required. Significantly, seniors are represented in that group and in something that is called the core housing need. And we know this, and I know a number of people here will speak to that issue, is that housing for seniors that enables them to get it at an affordable rate, allows them to stay in the community. This community has been very progressive in working on things like healthcare, and the opening of your primary care facility is really going to be another amazing piece to enabling seniors to stay in this community and not have to leave. Next slide. So I'm going to turn this over to Sabrina for the next few slides.
Hey, well, thanks for having us. So the funding opportunity that is before us is the BC Housing Community Housing Fund. And essentially we have the application deadline, which is the 31st of July, which is next week. So we've been working hard to target that. So I just wanted to talk a little bit really about some more things to do with the fund. It's going to essentially be for a 60-year lease that will be on the land, which is great because it gives you 60 units of housing over 60 years. It also prioritizes trying to bring in more local job creation. You get more kind of points in your application. So that's something that we've been looking at and something we would like to bring to this project. We don't want to bring in anybody from outside of the area if we can help it, which I'm sure we do too. And it's a really good bang for your buck. You get $117,000 in grant funding per unit, and then the rest is unmortgageable interest on quite a reasonable rate. It's all stacking up quite nicely for this scheme. So that's a real opportunity for the village to have access to that funds. And the process for it is essentially, we'll talk in a minute about the work that we've done to date, but we're here today to talk to you and to hopefully get your permission to move forward. And if we do, we'll then put the submission in on the 31st. BC Housing will advise it will take them 6 weeks to review the applications, and if we are lucky and successful, our hard work will come to fruition, and on the 11th of September, if that works out, we will get the allocation. And really that's when the work begins. So we have a schematic design now. It's by no means the final version of it, but we have to submit something. So we will then move forward with design consultation with anybody in the community that wants to be involved. We're very, very keen to make sure that if we move forward with this, everybody's happy with the final solution and that it stacks up financially with BC Housing's limitations. We're going to work with everybody to get permits. So that's a building permit and development permit. And then we're going to work the design up, and then we'll go out to tender, and then we will build it, basically, is the kind of plan. So hopefully we will do all of that, and work will start on schedule in the fall winter of 26. So just over a year. And that's essentially the opportunity and process that we would take moving forward. And the work done today, so I'm sure probably most people in this room know what's been happening because everybody's very interested, but just so we can put it out there in black and white for everybody, we have done a topographical survey of the entire site, which we've shared with the village to use for any phases that follow on from this, for other buildings that you might want to build as part of village lands. So that's been made available, and that sort of, it's kind of just what it says, it maps the topography of the land and what have you, marks in where the services are. We've done an environmental assessment. People in the village probably know that this used to be a landfill site. So we want to make sure that whatever we're building, we're making sure that we're complying with the right legislation and making sure that we're treating the ground properly and keeping everybody safe. We've always also had Stahalis have been on site, and they have done an archaeological investigation to respect the heritage of the land, to make sure that we're making sure that it's any buried heritage, we're taking care of that. We've done architectural work, which Chelsea will talk about. We've done constructability studies. We've also done some geotechnical investigations where we've basically dug into the ground to see what the ground conditions are. We've done some capital and operational budget costings, we've done risk assessments, and we've also been consulting with the local community organisations and village groups on what this might look like.
One of the things that's really important to us, and I think has been one of the most positive aspects of the last month, is our ability to talk to various groups and organizations about seniors housing needs in the community. So you have received letters of support from the following organizations. They are represented here today, and I know that they would welcome the opportunity to speak to the proposal. I don't know how council would enable that, but they are represented here in the chamber, and they are here from the Age Friendly Committee, Steph Gillis First Nation, Agassiz Harrison Senior Citizens Housing Society, Agassiz Harrison Community Services Senior Services Department, Agassiz Harrison Healthcare Communities, and Fraser Health.
Okay, yeah, so the fun stuff, which I typically love, I'm not biased at all. Thank you guys so much for the opportunity to speak to this project. Again, my name is Chelsea, I'm the architect for the project currently. What I'm about to show you are set drawings, but they're so flexible right now. What we undertook the last month and a bit was an analysis of what was potential for the site. That weighed, yes, architectural features and the suites and the way of life in a suite, but it also weighed the site context. And honestly, we spent a lot of time on the site itself and analyzing it. You just heard that we underwent a lot of due diligence with engineering, and that came in over the course of a month, right? Because they took some time with it. So, and then we had to absorb that into consideration. So lots of consideration and ongoing analysis as well. Okay, so with that, the task that I had at the forefront of my mind was to, how do we align this with the village's master plan that had so much engagement and is interwoven into the good work that this town has done. So I wanted to make sure that we did that. The consideration of location. Let's talk about that for a few moments. There's basically 3 locations we were considering as part of this endeavor. One originally was the Public Works Yard, which is what we, I think, presented originally. Under due diligence, environmentally, specifically, it was quite impacting, and then also consideration of that the village would have to relocate the Public Works Yard was actually quite daunting. So maybe that is not the best option. That's what was going through our minds. Environmentally is an issue because there's salt, there's gas on that location. We don't know the context of remediation that might need to be done, but it's a big possibility. Just north of the Public Works Yard was also considered. It's not a bad site environmentally, archaeology, geotech wise. That works. It's serviced. It's a nice spot. And as a summary. And then to the west of that, which is what I'm currently showing on the site, even though it's we're talking about all 3 there, is where we kind of where we ended up here. It reinforces this nice frontage along Harrison as an entry, right? Continues your road frontage. And this whole location and alignment with the master plan is so important for seniors living on this site, whether it's the 3 of them. One, it's so pedestrian friendly with all the improvements that have happened. It's on that bus route that connects all of the communities in the valley here, which many people living in this valley do connect through all the communities here. That's so important to way of life. So, and it's really close to the primary care clinic now. So there's all these things that, make it the potential for a vibrant seniors living site. Okay. Making sure I hit everything for you guys. Sure, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so the orientation of the building along the south side, which is just next to this building here, we envision a meandering path, an opportunity for some community gardens. What this does is it engages people at site at grade, which with any community planning policies is that's the crux of it. You want to do that to make it really safe and vibrant and community building. Other ways that we did this on this plan is to make suites actually at grade in a safe way. So it's above the flood construction level. That was really important, but putting people at grade is really important for that connectivity. Seniors like to spend time on their patios, connect to people walking by with their dog. That happens in many, many communities, even in the one I live in. Other things at grade, the main entry, we pulled that off of this busy road here and brought it to that inside street, which is existing. What that does is it makes it a bit of a calmer entry. It's not chaotic. It gives seniors time to get into their home in a safe way. That's critical for seniors. And yeah, it just makes it a little bit a nicer entry. We also, off that main space there, centralized, have the concept to provide indoor scooter parking. Scooters are a vital way of life too for seniors. It's a reality these days. So we just wanted to make sure that there was enough parking to respect that. Other moments. So inside the suites, we have 60 suites shown in this concept. It's 4 levels, and every suite is 600 square meters. That is, yeah, 600 square feet. Square meters would be a lot. Square feet, that is lots and lots of space in terms of BC housing design. What it really means for people living in that space, you have good maneuvering around your living corridors. You have a good washroom that could be modified in the future to have grab bars, even though it might not initially have those installed. So if you're allowed to age in place longer, is essentially what the task of our designing is. We are not at that point to design inside the suite, but it has to be at the forefront of my mind as I design the site and contextualize what we're trying to do here. So bringing that previous knowledge through is critical, and that's why I speak to it today. Okay. I think the amenity room, yes, of course. So in addition to the scooter room, we have an amenity room. It is on that top level, which is the northeast portion of the building. On site here, you're gonna have a little sliver of the lake, which is nice, not obviously the perfect view. That's quite all right. And it's away from the main residential portion of the community. So it just, those 2 locations work really well for a strong amenity space. We could have put it at grade, but we felt putting it up in the building was one, seniors are probably gonna use it more. It's a nice space. And it's a bit more private for the seniors living in that building, because the building will become its own community. So we wanted to make sure that that connection and opportunity was I will touch on parking because it has been a conversation with staff, and it's just our way of life. I'll go back 1, get better. So again, this is just a suggestion. This is just where we're at today. I talked so importantly about that connection to the space on grade to make a vibrant site. That is why we're not showing the parking under the building right now. It's not cost effective to do so, even though you hide your parking to put it slightly underneath the building. Yeah, we didn't propose that route for various reasons, as I just suggested, but we have provided a parking lot. We have provided street parking along that interior road. And the reality of seniors developments in our experience, our combined experience, is that it is not a 1-to-1 ratio for parking stalls to residents. It's quite far less, and there's traffic studies that can support this, but it's almost half, I would say, on average, of residents to parking. Seniors eventually will not drive. So we consider that in this proposed idea, and it'll be developed further, obviously, right? Keep on saying that this is just a suggestion of an analysis that we've done to date, and it's not, it's going to be developed further, no doubt. With number of parking stalls, 41. 41? Oh, it's 41. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, I think let's get into the next slide.
So in terms of our next steps, what we do require in order to submit a proposal to BC Housing is the signing of a letter of intent to enter into a development management agreement with the Village of Harrison. And I did want to thank Amanda Graham for going through on the villages and the very detailed changes that were required, and we made a few ourselves. And so from our perspective as a society, we feel we're in a good position on our end to sign it, and I have full authority to do that. Buy into the project schedule. I do want to mention that having gone through this a number of times with BC Housing, this should be viewed as the front end of the process, not the back end. There is a lot that changes over time, but we need to get sort of approval of the big concept and get that application in. We know it's very competitive, and so we view this as a lot of work's been done. I think it's personally in very good shape to get into BC Housing with the best chance of success. Village of Harrison Resources, we wanted to thank the village already for help assisting us in looking at the land and providing a range of information. That's been very helpful. Staff Resources for communication and collaboration on development deliverables. So this would very much involve an ongoing set of work with the village and with our partners in the community, a lot of public consultation. So we are looking for support in that. And then the cost, which is very common for most every municipality. So the value of this construction is around 21 million and change. And that resource comes from BC Housing. So that's not money that's given by the village, it's money provided by the provincial government. In most cases, the municipalities do waive the development cost charges, and in addition to a lease of the land as their contribution. So that's what we will be looking for today. On that, thank you very much for the opportunity to work with you.
Do you mind if I just clarify the
Yeah.
last point? So the waiving of the development cost charges, it's not always 100%. So for some of the smaller municipalities, we understand that that is not just, fun money for you to go and spend. It actually goes into building the infrastructure for the development and for the community. So that's more of a conversation. And in the letter of intent, what we've sort of proposed is that we will have that conversation rather than today. We're not looking for you to commit to yes, we'll waive all of the fees. Just to clarify.
Thank you, Diane, Sabrina, and Chelsea. I bet I have many questions. I find this a really exciting project. There's a lot of details here, and I'm sure there's lots of questions. I have a bunch as well, and I see Councillor Fascio already has his hand up. So, Councillor Fascio, could you lead us off?
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, thank you for the presentation. I'm a very happy man. I think this is a wonderful project. Back in the 90s, we got to a adoption of a 45 unit facility. Unfortunately, it failed at adoption. So it's been a long time coming. It's a wonderful plan. The question I'd like to ask is, there are only 1-bedroom units, is that correct? Is there any consideration in case a couple wanted to? Now, let me clarify something first. This is independent living, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, we got a lot of going on in the village in the background saying this is a care home and this and that. It's totally independent.
Yeah, just a point of clarification. So there are a lot of details to be worked out. And so, for example, we had a discussion with Fraser Health. The Agassiz Harrison Senior Housing Society has advocated more for assisted living. There are things to be worked out after we, for example, if we would get funding booked. I think where you will likely not see this facility as an extended care facility, that simply I don't think is possible. The discussions we need to have are around independent and assisted living, those two options as the next point of discussion. So, but not extended care, that is entirely different, it's not a care home, just so we're clear.
Thank you for clarifying that, because it says.
So the number of bedrooms, I'll leave this up to my time callers to talk about that.
Yeah, you had also talked about, 2 bedrooms, 1 versus 1 bedroom, so.
No, excuse me, just a mixture of maybe 1 or 2, in case a couple want to move, husband and wife, or moving together, yeah.
Absolutely, and through my experience on other seniors, independent living projects, that is a topic that comes up every single time, without a doubt. BC Housing does not typically allow that for seniors development. I hope that they change that in the future, because I hear it every single project, and that is a reality of seniors living. So, currently, we're only showing 1 bedrooms, for that reason.
That's okay, that's good. Yeah, the location seems pretty good to me. Well, at the moment, I know you have to get the application in, but the location seems now, wasn't there some discussion really about the roof on this? Was it going to be a garden type of roof or just a regular, no?
No, we haven't done the forming character yet.
Okay.
We're really hesitant to do so because we want that to
Sure.
be publicly engaged and
Yeah.
inputted before we do
I
that.
appreciate that. Okay, so basically that was what I wanted to clarify about the independent living and about the bedrooms in the unit, but I think it's a wonderful project. I hope the funding comes through and we can get this thing moving for the community. I think it's needed. We've had many calls, I have, as a former mayor over the years, regarding people want to stay in Harrison, but they want to downsize. And unfortunately, one of my dear friends who kept asking me for the last 5 years, I said, it's coming. Unfortunately, she's not with us anymore. She had to move to Langley. So, but I think it'd be a wonderful addition for our community. And thank you very much for the presentation again. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Pasha. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon, through you to our presenters. Thank you so much. I've stated before that I am 100% in support of this project. I hear constantly from seniors in our community who have told me when they want to downsize from their single family homes, that it is a strong desire for them to stay here in Harrison. And I think we can accomplish that with this project. With that, a few questions. I believe I saw our planner, Mr. Cossey, on the line. Is he able to take questions?
Absolutely.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Cossey. I know we've had some discussion about the parking here, and it has been mentioned that the need for the amount of parking spaces may be reduced because simply not all seniors have vehicles. My question is, what is there a parking stall requirement in this type of a multi-residential building geared towards seniors?
Yes, there is, Your Worship, and it's actually in your zoning bylaw as we speak, and it is 1 per every 4 beds. So for this particular project, you would need 15 parking stalls, and I understand from the presentation they were talking about 41, so that definitely exceeds it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I have a concern about the parking too, but I know we're not quite there yet. And also, Mr. Cossey, I know there's discussion about waiving the ECC or development cost charges. Is that ask consistent under BC Housing that they request that?
Yes and no. What it is, it's more in line with the provincial legislation. It's one of the new tools that we can look at for these types of developments where the council can waive it. We haven't got it in the current development cost charges bylaw. However, we can put that into the amendment, the OCP amendment bylaw that's coming forward, that as council wishes for these types of projects, you can waive development cost charges. Because that's keeping in line with the provincial requirements and the new legislation.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cossey, that's helpful. Through to our presenters, I know during the presentation, you seem to indicate that you, and the grant funding would provide, I believe, $117,000 per unit. How do you make up the difference, if there is a difference?
So there is a difference, there's a big difference, so I can explain. So there's two types of funding we go in for. So there's the construction loan, so that's called the interim finance. And then when you finish the construction, you then convert that loan into essentially a mortgage.
Yeah.
And so the mortgage is over 35-year term, and the takeout rate is about 4.2%. So what happens is we look at the rent matrix. So 20% of these units are deep subsidy, 30% are at, I hope I get this right, they're at market rate, and then 50% are low to moderate based off the housing income limits. So that is set at no more than 30% of what that limit is. So we take that information, we work out how much money we're going to make a year. We take our operating costs, which we benchmarked off the Paramount in Chilliwack. We take that off, and then we essentially work out how much the interest is going to be, and we put all of that into this enormous spreadsheet that's very complicated. And then we work out how much loan we need to basically bankroll the whole thing. And then we also have a subsidy element as part of the application, which is working out roughly at around $1,000 per unit. So that's in keeping with other applications that we're seeing that are going in. So that's a good sort of like health check of how successful it will be. But that's how it's funded. So it is a loan over the course of 35 years.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and just to clarify how it works, I've worked on a number of these projects. So in the bottom end analysis, the nonprofit operating it operates at a stable, basically balanced budget by the time you get it done. But there are reasons that developers do not get into these kind of projects because there's not a lot of money to be made. You're covering your costs, you're getting much more reasonable rent for seniors. The nonprofit is not put at, they're not running deficits in the building. And there's certain things like reserves have to be maintained. So, you know, the roof, windows, whatever it is, janitorial, insurance, all that stuff.
Okay.
That's worked out in a 60-year operating agreement.
Okay.
So that it, if it's well done, it is I hate to use the overused phrase win-win, but it is. It's a win for seniors in terms of the amount of money they're paying for a safe and beautiful building. It's a win for the community, and it's a win for the nonprofit in terms of extending services to seniors in a fiscally responsible way.
Thank you.
Kind of includes that.
Just, thank you. I know that talked about the interior and the units and whatever. Would any consideration begin to, if say children or overnight guests wanted to be with their parents or whatever? I know in similar facilities, sometimes they have, you know, accommodation within the building for overnight guests that could be perhaps rented at a nominal rate or whatever, so.
That's a good question now. I'll be honest, I don't know the answer. I've seen it happen in the private sector, sure. I think that would probably not be allowed under the CHF because the grant funding for the unit is intended for seniors. That said, I'm not sure is the answer. I think not, based off my understanding. It's a really good question, though. I will take that back because that would be great if you could have that in the city.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Talon. I
Thank you.
think all my questions now.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Well, to your last question is an interesting one. There are a number of hotels in town.
Yes.
I know you're well aware of that. But yeah, it's a good question.
I think it was just.
Yeah, it's not always practical.
You know, so children or whatever could be close to.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I know where.
Just a
I know
thought,
where- I know
gotcha.
where it comes from.
Okay.
Councillor Swyman.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Talon. I've got a few pages of notes and questions, and I appreciate your patience, if you don't mind, to ask some of these things. And at the end of this, frankly, I might have some amendments to make as well to the original question, if that's okay. But let me preface by saying the three of you, I just love the passion and the compassion that I hear in your voices and in your presentation. So thank you. It's this is a missing need in all communities, I think. And I've done some research on what they're doing in Europe and the European model, and it all seems to be that social housing is something that we need to do. Because the private sector is just simply isn't doing it unless it's for profit. I'm currently moving my mother-in-law from Ontario into a Chartwell in Victoria. So I've got some experience with this. And I can tell you that although we're identifying a need for people who want to take the next step out of their houses, I can tell you that in my experience and talking to my parents and their friends and my mother-in-law, they're fiercely independent. They want to stay fiercely independent until they can't. And this is one of the concerns that I have with this. And most of them want to stay in their house, quite frankly. Fiercely stay in their house and stay independent and not move into anything else and disrupt their life until they really need to. And the concern that I have with this is when they really need to, they've got health issues, either cognitive or physical health issues. And this is a concern of mine because we're going to be taking 60 people who are fiercely independent in their homes and maybe not quite able to do it anymore. And they may not live in this place very long before they deteriorate to a point where they have to move closer to medical care. So I've got some concerns around that. But I'll first start with my first question is, what experience does your organization, Diane, have in operating these things? I did take a little bit of a tour in some of the facilities in Angus. I went to, I think it's called the Dogwood facility, where there's 12 units and a huge parking lot, by the way. And also the park, I think it was called the park facility, which I don't think you're involved in except for ancillary services. So what experience would you have?
Yeah,
Sorry,
let
Mr. Mayor.
me clarify. Our good colleagues at Legacy Harrison Senior Housing Society are the ones who operate Dogwood, and they operate McCaffrey as well. So that's not our organization. So just to clarify that. So I'll talk about organizational ability, and then I'll talk about a bit of my experience. So we at Legacy Harrison Community Services operate 8 different programs for seniors. But we do not operate housing. So we view this as the next step in that we do everything from driving to providing meals, social connection, connecting people, doing things such as helping them get signed up with dental care, that kind of thing. My own experience is I was responsible at Chilliwack Community Services for developing the Paramount Project, which is 66 units of housing in downtown Chilliwack in District 1881. And that is the same kind of model. It's a model of independent living, but they also have 8 units for young people aging care. In that, in addition, I was responsible for developing the youth building on School Street it's an Olympic project, and that's 32 units for young people who are not able to live at home. And that's a supported facility. So that includes staffing where those staff support the youth. So that's a different model. And then thirdly, I was involved in Kitty Corner to the city of Chilliwack is the Pacific Community Resources Society. And it's a housing It's a housing project for 21 individuals who are receiving addiction support as well as living in that facility for 2 years. And they, in all these facilities, and I need to talk about this because it's really important, properly done, these facilities are great additions to communities. And what winds up happening is that they actually assist in helping out with social issues so that there is not a deterioration. In this particular issue with seniors, our relationship with Fraser Health is going to be really, really important. So one of the things that can happen as seniors move from full independence to requiring more levels of care is home care. So making sure that we are working with Fraser Health to maximize the amount of home care that individuals can live very successfully with home care for many, many years. But there is a point in a time, and this would be all involving us, and maybe Fraser Health can speak to this as well. But there's an assessment time that occurs where it's very clear that a senior is no longer able to live independently. There are a series of assessments done that would then move them into, for example, extended care. And we would be, we have a great partnership with Fraser Health. We've worked with them for years. And we would want to make sure that the process of transition for a senior, regardless of where they find themselves in their life, is done in a good way. And that's through collaboration and communication that gets done.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Talon, if I could continue, thank you. So the FHA brings me to another question that I had, and that is, we're taking up a lot of village land here for a limited number of people. I just want to make sure that this is going to benefit Harrison and Agassiz. Or are we going to be in a situation where the FHA is using our housing project to ship people from out of the region into our community? Because we're doing this for our community, not for Chilliwack and Abbotsford. Nothing against them, but
that's right.
We will. Residents want to make sure if we're giving up a big chunk of our land here, that this is going to be to the benefit of our community.
Yeah.
Is there some governance?
There is.
Rules
So we
around
have,
that?
what winds up happening is we have to indicate to BC Housing our resident policies. So our resident policies would very specifically say that it's designed for this population. The other thing is, while Fraser Health may talk to us about a client, we are the operator, and so we decide who goes into the building. So number one, they have to be 55 and over. Number two, they have to be from here. Number three, they have to, for the units that are subsidized, they have to meet very specific financial criteria. The market rate units, that's a little bit different, but, and for that, BC Housing is very prescriptive. So they will say, this is how they have to prove what their income is, and they can't get into those subsidized units unless their income is there. But this is not a Fraser Health, it's a Fraser Health collaborative, but it is not run by Fraser Health, it's run by Agassiz Harrison Community Services.
Thank you. Yeah, I read the submission for the Housing Society, and it's got something called RGI, the rent geared to income.
That's right.
And I note that the minimum income is more than my kids make, quite frankly. So it's, we've got to weigh this. This is a generational gap.
Yes.
And politicians have been accused in the past of building these big buildings to solve a need when they're forgetting about the other need, and that is the other end of the spectrum, which is youth and young people. I've got 2 young men in my family who don't see a chance to buy a house at all, ever, with what they make, and they don't make what the minimum here is. So anyways, that's another thing, but I wanted to talk about need. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
I wanted to clarify one other item, is that there's going to be a mentorship agreement signed between Agassiz Harrison Community Services and CCS, or Chilliwack Community Services. So that mentorship of lessons learned in that, and because they're operating, and they've been operating more than a year, is going to be translated into lessons learned for this project. So I just wanted to.
Okay, sure. Need, if you don't mind. Are there any vacancies currently in Agassiz and Harrison for people who are looking to do this sort of thing? I want to make sure that there's actually a need out there. Like I said when I prefaced my statement, people are fiercely independent and want to stay in their homes as long as they can until they can't. So are we really going to be able to fill this with residents of Harrison and Agassiz?
Yeah, so the data that is there is a requirement for 80 units.
That's
So
from
that is-
2012 though.
Yeah, well, it
Okay.
was updated in 20.
It's actually 108 something now.
Yeah.
It's gone.
So, and that was as of 2021.
2019 was the 80 figure, and then the interim housing was for the Harrison.
Yeah,
Whether that 184 is not all seniors, but if you look at the data, I think it's that like there's an aging population in Harrison. So those figures from like 2012 to 2019, they're getting higher and higher because you're basically the people that were in that 60 band are now in that 70 band. And if you look at the charts, you can follow it. I'm not sure how, sorry, I don't have one of those brains.
so there's the formal data, and then you'll notice the letter of support from Agassiz Harrison Senior Housing Society. They have said there is a need, but they are particularly saying there's a need for assisted. So this is where that discussion that we need to have after we're trying to get funding booked for BC Housing, and then define the exact need with seniors housing. But the data is there to support the need for the housing. The other thing, and I'm very cognizant of what you're saying about housing for other populations, but the master plan is very specific that seniors housing or the seniors has been put on the master plan as it's pretty much written entirely on your maps of priorities for the community. So in there it was not identified for families. It was not identified for even, for example, for people who come here to work in the tourism industry, for example. Those might also all be needs, but they weren't identified in the master plan as a priority. So
Sure.
I'm sure it could be dealt with in another way, but not on this land and not, and that would have, if we, I think it suggested that would have been against what was actually consulted on and what was approved by.
Okay.
the Mayor and Council.
Thanks for the information on the need. Mayor Talon, through you to CAO or to perhaps to Ken Cossey, can we confirm that that is still a need, this core housing need of 80 individuals or units that are required? Maybe Ken, is that a question for you? Is that
Go ahead, Mr.
something that we
Cossey.
still see happening?
You're still on mute, Ken.
Sorry about that. Yes, your worship, that's part of the housing needs report that we looked at and provided to the province in February.
Okay. Sorry, Diane, Mayor Talon, sorry, I'm asking a lot here. Healthcare. So we're at the end of the road. We have a delay in ambulances getting here. We have a volunteer fire department who are more and more being asked to do medical calls. And we are now going to be housing 60 people who may be compromised in their health. And I just want to see if this is the right spot. I keep thinking to myself, is this better done in Agassiz? And I'm not trying to be NIMBY, not in my backyard. I just want to make sure that we're serving these 60 people properly, given that we don't have doctors here. They're 25 minutes from Chilliwack General Hospital. And we have ambulance issues as it is. How can I be convinced that this is the right area at the end of the road?
Right, okay, so just in terms of availability, so we as an organization did look at Agassiz for potential land availability. And there was none to be found at this moment. So if you look independently, so if I had my druthers, I'd put housing there too, because they have the same housing needs. They're a little bit lower on the seniors number required, but that's still a significant population over there. Their housing need shows a need for families, as you've talked about, individuals with disabilities and seniors. So those three populations are identified in that housing setting. So in terms of healthcare, and again, maybe, I don't know if we can engage Fraser Health in this discussion here, but I think one of the pieces that is positive is that you're opening a primary care facility here. I know that this does not necessarily deal with the back end emergency part, but if you can enhance primary care for seniors here and they can get care earlier, you will see less situations of compromised health. The other thing is that we have to be clear here. We cannot let people into the building that are so health compromised that really what they need is extended care. That it just, we will have to be very specific about that and work with Fraser Health. They should be coming in and to do assessments of individuals. They should then be working in terms of making arrangements with other facilities that are more to their needs. But home care is one thing that can be done, absolutely, and there's no problem. But I think we have to be very careful about the nature of the individuals so that it's an appropriate kind of housing for their need, and not everybody will be a fit. For those other individuals, unless there is an extended care facility built here, then they would have to go elsewhere, Cham Village or where points west.
Sure. Mayor Talon, next question I have is for Ken or for CAO. Mr. Cossey, is, this is $21 million. Boy, what could be done with $21 million? It's a lot of money. Is there another way that we could accomplish the same thing in the private sector, either asking developers or incentivizing developers to take up some other land and to do something like the Harrison Estates on McCombs, where similar number of individuals are housed in a wonderful community center in nice units? I'm just wondering if there's another way that we can, either through our OCP or through bylaws, incentivize developers to do the same thing.
Yes, your worship, you can do that if you wish. That's a choice of council. But
May I ask?
Diane, I think you have something to add to that.
Yeah, number one, I support the private sector. I do. I think business is great. For example, you have a very vibrant economy here. But here's the inconvenient truth. Developers don't do it. That's why. And the reason they don't do it is there's no money in it. So the only money that they can make is off construction. But if you look at an affordable level of rent, they will never invest in the management of a building and provide those kind of rents to individuals because they will never make a buck. And I've run these kind of successful, beautiful buildings before. And in the end analysis, if you take good care of people, you take good care of the building, you've got a balanced budget on your hand, but you are not making a buck. And the reason the private sector is in business is to make money. And I support them in doing that. But this kind of project, they're more than willing, like how much construction has gone up in the region here for rents. And I've looked at the CMHC studies and they all say the same thing. You build a whole bunch of these units and you're charging $2,500 for rent. And they're all built and they're being built and they're being built and they're being built. And here's where the need is, and nobody's doing it. And the reason they're doing it is because it's not a viable business proposition. And I support them in their problem.
Sure.
And I do, I make the same mistake.
It's a major problem, not just with seniors, but like I said, with the younger people too, who just can't get into the market. And I have to weigh that need as well. I have two more things. I'm sorry to take up everybody's time. Parking. You've got 42 spots. We're limited here in parking. I need reassurances from council. I think we need to keep this in mind, that we're going to be providing people to park their cars in our lot and take up our overflow parking, and also the opportunity cost of doing gardens and the other visionary things that we wanted to do with this property. So I just want to caution council that that's a lot of parking, a lot of land we're giving up for cars, for seniors who may not be using their cars. So I think as a council, we need to come up with a solution for that. Sorry, the other one was, my apologies. Yeah, okay, most of it. Yeah, the amount of space we're taking up on this property. In our 3 visionary things for the civic lands project that we talked about, I think we were looking at a maximum of 26% of this total land being used for a seniors complex. And I don't know what this is, but it seems to be closer to 40%, and it's a bit of a concern that I have. The other one is the money, and I get stuck with this $21 million, to be honest with
More
you.
like the full development cost, which 21 million is the build cost.
to actually develop land, to pay for finance, to pay for, it's actually 32 million.
$32 million.
That's how much it would cost to
Right.
build it.
So just rough estimates, because I think you mentioned that the government will provide 117K per unit
That's
as a grant, okay?
Yeah. So that's
And-
the profit margin.
And you're looking at, rough calculations, $600,000 being spent on this project per unit, per person. And I'm just wondering if the private sector can do a better job,
Well,
if we
look at
can somehow incentivize, like, that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
It's $600,000 per
is.
unit.
I think just to echo what Diane's saying, but also, I mean, the need in the community based off all of the reports that I've read and having worked in this industry now for 20 something years, is that they would be doing it by now, they would be doing it if there was a way for the private sector to respond. The other thing I would just like to add in the fact it's immediate need is every private developer I know is shutting up shop. The cranes are not in the sky. The economy is not looking good. So, and that's probably going to be the case for a while, like we're probably heading that way economically. I just think that given the need that we have in the community and the access to provincial funding, and that's not guaranteed, like this is, just to be clear on this, there are 4 intakes for this one pot of money and everybody's going for intake A. And there's no guarantee there'll be more money in the near future. So if we kind of miss this opportunity, the private sector is not responding because the private sector is just not building at the minute. It just is a consideration maybe for the council that, you know, think of the economy as well is sort of what I'm trying to communicate.
I understand they've got $3.3 billion to shell out. And like I said, there's that generational gap, you know, we politicians do stuff for the voters. And I really think sometimes we got to think about the younger generation as well. $32 million, a lot of money for business grants and education and, you know, apprenticeships, and that's a lot of missed opportunity costs. I'm sorry, I'm waxing poetic. Thank you. Mayor Talon, thank you.
Community service manager.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. I just wanted to highlight, because I think that sometimes with grant funding, this kind of gets confused, that this $21 million is not just sitting in the village's bank account ready to go out for something. It's not village money at all. It's through the grant process. And the grant process is for specific ways to build community housing. So if there's no community housing base to the program, there's no grant application, there is no $21 million, then you would be looking to come up with that $21 million through some other way for the private sector to build it. So I think it's just important to highlight that the grant opportunity is specific to these types of projects, and otherwise that funding isn't there.
Thank you, community service manager.
Just a comment about the cost. Could BC housing be a little bit more economical? They probably could be. If I had a magic wand, I'd take a shot at the BC building code. But those are decisions way above our pay grade. The other thing that I have observed about BC housing, and I'm grateful about it, is there were times in previous projects where I put my hand in my head and say, I can't believe you require that. Like, why? But what it means is you're not getting shocked. I'll just say it that way, because they have additional criteria on adaptability and accessibility. They take BC building code and they add to that in terms of requirements. So in the past, where you would have these terrible SROs in various parts of the province, you don't have that. When you're building that I managed for Chilliwack Community Services, it's a beautiful building. It still is. They built it in 2010. It's 15 years old. It's well kept. The units are well kept. It looks great. If you drive by it on School Street, you wouldn't notice the difference between that and any other development. So I think there is some additional additional costs that are in there to make sure that it's a good, solid facility. And could they be more economical? Probably.
It's government, of course, they could be.
Yeah. So,
and that's why my question to Ken is there some better way to do this and not spend $32 million?
Well, and I guess what I'm saying to you is if developers had wanted to do this, they would have done it.
Well, perhaps our bylaws need to change, or some zoning, that sort of thing. Maybe there's something we can do as a village.
The other thing is that, and I know this has been a little bit on social media, that the village is paying for all this, they're not. They're, in fact, it's probably a significant benefit, not only financially, but to seniors as well.
Thank you, Councillor Swain. That's Councillor Jackson.
Well, thank you, Worship.
Any questions left?
I didn't think you were ever gonna get to it. I spent a lifetime in the mortgage business, 44 years. I can guarantee you that we never had one application from a developer to do any social housing. The bureaucracy behind that was so overwhelming, they wouldn't touch it. And there's no money in it. Well, just a little anecdote, how I look at this. Back in the 1950s, I was asked to move into my grandmother's house to look after her and the maintenance of the house. She was 80 years old. She paid taxes, she owned a beautiful home. I got a place to sleep that was warm. I realized then, and we're talking the 50s, there was a need for seniors. They were classified, as they are in most cases in Canada today, as second-hand citizens. They deserve a place to go to when they need it. And I think we should be all behind projects like this, because at one time, if we're lucky enough, we become a senior and we may need it. So obviously, from my point of view, I want this to go ahead. And in the long run, it will serve a need for the community. There are other methods for seniors when they get sick or older to be looked after. But we must remember that these people, most of them, lived in different times. They lived in times when their wages were much lower, benefits were lower. They didn't have the opportunity to RRSPs and all these things that you have today to build wealth. So it's really a commitment on behalf of all of us to do whatever they can. And I'm in fully support of this, and I hope it goes through. And thank you for all your efforts.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. I think several things on this. I have several questions myself. But first, as sort of an overview, I think it's a good project for the village. I think it responds directly to what we heard through a lot of public engagement for seniors housing, as reflected in our community lands master plan. I think this project to go ahead needs to fit into a little bigger picture and make sure it fits in the right way into a bigger picture. I like the fact, and I think this should be stated, that with Agassiz Harrison Community Services operating the building, and I presume owning the building as well.
Leasing, we would lease for, you guys have given us potential $10 a year.
But that's for the land, the building itself, the improvements on the land, would they be owned by, who owns the building?
It will be on a, well, ultimately, BC Housing will own the building.
BC Housing owns the
Yeah.
building?
Well, they're paying for it.
Okay. Yeah, I know they're funding from them.
It's registered on time. So for the 60 years, there'll be the operating agreement, 60-year lease, and then at the end of that 60 years. It's a very good question who owns it and operates it. And I used to work at BC Housing, and even they don't know. So
It's an important question, because I think my follow-up to that would be, I understand the ask is for the land and lease at a nominal rate for 60 years, and perhaps waiving in whole or in part of development contribution costs or something. DCC, another acronym I don't have completely locked in my head. But the question I have is like municipal taxes for the improvements, who would pay those?
when you say municipal taxes for the improvements.
Yeah, normally there's a tax bill that comes, part of it is the assessed value of the land and the assessed value of improvements.
Yeah, that's paid through the development, so that's all worked into the, so that's paid through the.
Those are annual, so it's an ongoing taxes,
Oh, yeah.
taxes and utilities.
And that's in the operating costs.
That's in the operating
Yeah,
costs.
so that's that's all factored into how much it costs to operate, and that's how the appraisal works as well, so, yeah.
So whoever owns the building,
Oh, yeah, it
Pays
would
those
be
taxes.
coming from
Somewhere.
Harrison Community
Oh,
Services, yeah.
thank you.
But Mayor Talent, sorry to interrupt, just
Yeah.
from what I read and I understand, we, the village owns the building and we lease to the society,
The land,
not the building? Are you sure? Okay.
It's the land.
the land.
A very similar relationship that we do have with tourism.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's good clarification. It's good that we should all be on the same understandings
Yeah.
of that. And I think part of the bigger picture, partnering with Agassiz Harrison Community Services is, village is small, capacity, it reflects the size of the village. If the village were to do this on its own, we would require probably creating a housing authority or some other kinds of authority. And I think it's worth acknowledging that Agassiz Harrison Community Services is taking that on for the benefit of the village, and I would appreciate the questions about intake and governance. Can you share or have your thinking on how the facility managed and governed within Agassiz Harrison Community Services? How will it be managed and operated? Is it going to be a separate board or management oversight for that? And the background for it is, I think if the village is contributing the land, and perhaps the village should also have input or participation on oversight of the overall.
yeah, absolutely. So number one, we would have to hire a housing manager, which we would, and then there would be contract services as well. So that could be everything from janitorial to, we need to paint a suite to whatever it is, that's landscape management, that whole thing. And that's how I've done it in the past. We could certainly have a discussion about the governance, and the models I'm used to is the board of directors of Agassiz Harrison Community Services would be the governing body. We can certainly add to that in terms of needing to make that more representative. I know, for example, you are on as a representative of the village of Harrison on our new board, and I think that's really important. We would likely have a resident committee or some kind of body such as that, including, so for example, one of the things that's really important is that residents get their resident policies. It's very specific in terms of how people are onboarded into the building, what the expectations are. They sign a lease with us, and that lease is managed by the housing manager. And then there's very specific complaint procedures. For example, it starts off, somebody just raises an issue with the housing manager, and then it goes all the way up the line should things not get dealt with. Eventually, any resident of a BC housing facility, they can go to the BC Ombudsman or the BC Housing Tenant Committee, I think. So there are very established processes for how that works. We also are getting, what has been mentioned is all the documentation, except for from Chilliwack Community Services Paramount Building, in terms of all, everything that they use to manage that facility in a good way. And as mentioned, the youth facility has been in proper operation for 15 years. We also have what lines up happening with BC Housing is they identify a tenant individual who is then responsible for the BC operating agreement with us. And there is regular communication with them. And we work out things like, here's the reserve budget, here's the capital budget. Did you do your elevator check this month? Did you do checklist, maintenance checklist? So it's managed as any responsible, good housing operation should be managed.
Thank you very much. That's helpful. Yeah, I think just for the village to do some of these much bigger projects, partnering with other agencies and governments is key. A question perhaps for CEO Cook or Mr. Cossey, whoever can answer it. Can you approximate the assessed value of the land that this project would use?
That's a great question. I don't know what the assessed value of the properties are. We'd have to go to BC Assessment. But I'm gonna say if we look at the footprint, it's gotta be in the millions of dollars. I believe that these lots, I think we're seeing lots go for roughly $500,000, and we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it could be in the order of $3 million.
That's what's in the appraisal, about those roughly.
Is 3 million? Okay.
It's about, yeah, the end lot is 6, is actually on BC assessments, and it's on at 485K, if my memory serves me.
Okay. All right. Fitting this in a way that fits in a bigger picture. And I appreciated your comments about flexibility. I do have some observations, perhaps concerns, things I'd like to see. But part of it goes to what's in the letter of intent. Can you tell me, explain what the implications of the letter of intent, because it lays out as 4 stories, 60 rooms, the location, and that looks to me, tell me what that means. Does this mean that's the design period? Tell me what the effect of the letter of intent.
The letter of intent is something that parties can agree to. It's not a contract, but it just shows that both parties are willing to begin the negotiations to enter into a contract. So you have to have some sort of skeleton idea in there, whatever that is. So at the minute, we've got it, the building located on the 6 parcels on the northwest side of the site, right? That's also ties into BC Housing's funding so that we can say this is where it is, but that doesn't need to be where the building ends up.
Okay.
So the due diligence piece that we've done covers the entirety of the village lands pretty much. But in terms of like the massing and car parking and all of that, the things that will be baked into the BC Housing allocation, if we get it, is the number of units. That is the main thing, and the overall budget. And so I have checked with our construction manager who's prepared the budget, that if we were to move the building, if we were to basically keep the 60 units and go up 2 stories to reduce the footprint, I think it's like $25,000 more, which is a bit of a drop in the ocean overall. So no is the answer. It's what's in the letter of intent is not final. It just has to say something for the application or for this project.
Okay, that's a helpful clarification because certainly to sign off on it for myself to be comfortable, I need a bunch of information on a number of other things. And this goes to, I think, the bigger picture for how this block of land we're sitting on right now gets used. I am really sensitive to parking, and this lot will be filled tomorrow. I look forward to counting the number of cars. And the question that I hear a lot is, where do all those cars go? And when I look at the community lands master plan, it had green space and open areas, the concept of different rooms for different functions. I'm uncomfortable with paving this amount for parking. If this isn't final, I would certainly like to see opportunities to explore some underground or under building parking if possible, just to reduce the amount of land. This parcel is a certain size, but I hate to see it paved over. I think green space for the community is really valuable. So I'd like to see the building footprint, if possible, shrunk, and perhaps that means going up higher. Look at those options, but also some underground parking if possible. I think there's benefits to underground parking. Councillor Schweinman spoke from personal experience. My parents live in a condo and they have underground parking, and they would not be driving anymore without the ability to park in a parkade and take the elevator up to the room. The vehicle's dry, it's secure, it's not in any weather. There are benefits to that for people that still drive. So I'd like to see the building footprint reduced, and if parking's underneath, and I know a hotel on Esplanade that we approved had parking under the hotel. Recently, an apartment complex, 28 units had parking underneath. there's limited parking in the village, and the summer season with tourists just accentuates that, and I'd like to avoid and mitigate conflicts between residents with visitor parking, and find ways and homes for that. Part of that is maybe reducing the footprint size and having some on the ground parking. Part of it is probably a challenge to our staff to be able to answer the question, what about where are the cars going to go? Councillor Faccio.
All right, just
Yeah.
ask a question to yourself, Your Worship, just to clarify, when you talk about underground, you mean underground or underneath?
Underneath that.
Yeah, because underground, our water table is a bit dodgy here, but I mean underneath or two tiers like the hotels. Okay, thank you for the
Thank
clarification.
you. Yeah, something where the parking lot doesn't take up the green
Right.
space, just some number of cars. CAO.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. From what I heard from Ken is there's one stall per bedroom that is required. Is that correct, Ken? We're looking at an actual minimum requirement would be 15 stalls for the building itself. Is that true?
That is correct. It's 1 stall per 4 beds.
Okay. So the way I look at this is, and I hear what Mayor Tallon is, and I do agree that if we can shrink up the footprint and perhaps add a floor, is probably the best use of the land. Looking at the way the building is positioned, we could look at repositioning the building perhaps a little closer to Hot Springs Road and maybe have a 2-stall parking layout on site. That's not to say that I don't agree with it. It should be underground, but I think if we're looking at potentially probably 20 stalls on site, we could potentially eliminate this whole parking lot on the north end, which would be available, make the land available for either future green space or additional buildings or for the future use. So that's just a thought. I don't, maybe the architect has some comments, but
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah, go
I think
ahead.
that's very good. I want to take that back and actually make sure it works. And I think there's space for it. Because you just basically rotate whatever I've drawn, you have your drive aisle and your parking size. I think that what I've shown today is just like a half-baked parking idea, right? That was to begin the conversation, and it is still flexible. To speak to putting it under the building, I did note earlier, like, please, like, it takes the vitality away from the site. But mind you, it doesn't have to be the whole footprint of the building that is just parking, right? Maybe it's half, maybe it's one side. So I think that analysis should still happen, and it needs to happen. The reality of the flood construction level is strong on this site. It varies throughout the whole community landscape. We do need to raise the building up versus what is at grade right now. And you can see that through the topography survey that we're providing you guys. And you're up about 5 feet, but you can slope the lands so that it meets grade. But at the same time, 5 feet is half the parking height that you need. So it is reasonable, is kind of what I wanted to say. So it still needs, it's half-baked idea, needs to be considered through the site, but also the community.
Thank you for your flexibility and willingness to look at that. Yeah, it's a piece of land. It's got a ton of attention by the public and the village council looking at this. And I just want to make sure that when we go forward understanding all the implications, and if we pursue alternatives. For myself, I think the ideal place for it is actually where the Publix Works existing garage and yard is, and that find another home. That would be my preference. It does fit just right behind me as well, but my preference would be where the Public Works building is, and I'm hoping that in the near future, maybe there's some opportunities to relocate that. And if there's an ability, if the lands can be made clean, with whatever salt or contamination may be there, so that it's suitable for that, that would be good. But I don't know what's involved with that. But I think now that the village understands there's some contamination of the land, it probably befits us to look at mediating that or cleaning that up in due course. Yeah. could be
It's about,
parking as well.
well, the initial numbers we've had, it's about £300,000, sorry. It's about $300,000 budget for the remediation, and it's about a 12-month process to get the permits to the Ministry of the Environment.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for looking into
And
it.
if I may, and that still can be done within the timelines of meeting the requirement
I've
of
budgeted for
the.
it just in case. I've budgeted for every kind of option.
Perfect. I like to do that.
Certainly with the understandings and clarification, and thank you for being so candid and forthright with your answers. I think knowing that the letter of intent isn't final and binding, and there's room for flexibility and further exploring, but that meeting this July 31st intake date is important to have this ask considered in the most favorable light. They support this, but I also think there's probably some direction we need to consider giving staff to show how this building fits in. And I've taken this as the reason this is in some ways compelling council, I think, to decide more clearly than even the master plan how these village lands are ultimately going to be used. And it's sort of removing flexibility or options, and we're sort of making decisions, and I'd rather make those decisions overtly. Parking is important, so I'd like to also consider, if we go ahead with this, to also challenge staff to come back with what this village lands site would look like, answer the questions on overflow parking or additional parking, where that goes, and informed, I think, by the community lands master plan. And when I look at it, I think it's option 2 that is probably the one that most closely aligns with what I've heard today with this presentation. So maybe additional motion if we get through this. So are there any other questions for our Councillor Biden?
Thank you, Mayor Towland. I just wanted to speak to the letter of intent. It looks like a fairly legal document. And I think, I understand there's the July 31st deadline, but through you to our CAO, I think it would be wise for us to be prudent to have our own legal team review it. Do you see that deadline as constricting, or?
Thank you, Your Worship, through you, Councillor Biden. No, I don't think so. I think if we put a priority on it, the reason why I did not have legal look at this in advance, I wanted to make sure I didn't want to spend any capital in advance with the assumption that council was going to support this. If we come out of this with a full approval of council, and we can work out what the amendments are going to look like, as soon as that is done, we can certainly send it over with priority, and I don't see that being an issue.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll get that done by today, if everything goes well, and then I'll ask them to prioritize that for perhaps early next week.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Councillor Swinburne?
Thank you, Mayor Town.
I saw you.
I will have some amendments to propose before we vote on the final.
Councillor Jackson?
No, I'm just gonna put a motion on it to get the vote going. We can talk this to.
Sure.
Today.
There is a resolution for council's consideration that I'll get the corporate officer perhaps to read out, and then we'll get a motion to that effect. I'd just like to acknowledge that I worked in government for a couple of decades and maybe more. This kind of hit our radar, and this opportunity came up, I think, 6 weeks ago, maybe at most, before it was something here. To get to this point in that amount of time, it's impressive, actually. Yes. And been lots of, lots of, I was musing with our CAO. I said, well, if we're going to be criticized, I guess we won't be criticized for not doing anything. We'll be criticized for doing something. Be that as it may, corporate officer, could you read out the resolution and then we can consider it?
Thanks. Maybe before I do that, just because it sounds like there might be some amendments
Oh,
to
okay.
it, just for clarity. If the intent is to send the letter to legal counsel, is council expecting the letter of intent to come back before the July 31st meeting, or is it going to be, these are the amendments we'd like to incorporate it, because it sounds like there's some amendments that might be made at the table, or amendments that council would like staff to incorporate into the letter of intent. Just to be clear, kind of what council's wishes are with the letter of intent and the expectations. So before I read it out, if you want to do perhaps a motion, that staff be directed to incorporate the following amendments into the letter of intent. And then a secondary motion that would refer to legal counsel, and then just clarification from us whether the expectation is to have another meeting to bring that back for final consideration or
Thank you,
Thank you, Your Worship. Another proposal that I could put toward, and it is a full decision of council, but if the amendments are incorporated into the draft, perhaps the CAO and the mayor could work on a finalized copy, and then that would avoid having to come back to council.
Thank you.
I don't want to take that away from anybody's decision-making power, but I just wanted to add that to reduce the amount of time that.
Thank you.
So before we put a motion on the floor, then perhaps we'll take suggestions for amendments.
I'll be very quick.
Councilor Vital.
I'm not wanting to make an amendment, but my discussion on that letter of intent was simply to have it run by our legal team.
Yes.
And that if there were any flags that came up, it could best be addressed between yourself and Mayor Talon. So just wanted to clarify that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Vital. Councilor Swine-Benz, I think you said you were looking for something.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Talon, and I don't think my amendments would affect the letter at all. I wanted to amend some things to make sure that we reflect on parking needs, the placement of the building, all things that we've all discussed. I also wanted to add an amendment to include a public hearing for this. If we're going to make developers do a public hearing for a large building, I think we ought to as well. And investing in a study for the remediation of the public's work. So I've got a bunch of amendments I'd like to make. I can do it all in one if you like.
I always see a whole bunch of hands. I'm sure Mr. Crossley is about to answer a whole bunch of things. So, Councillor Swine-Benz, can you clarify just so we can have the conversations? And
sure.
So talk
first
past
of all,
each other. Are there actual amendments to the text of the letter of intent or a letter of support for the grant?
Well, my first one would be to amend the motion to direct staff to do a parking study such that any parking units that are taken here are replaced somewhere on village land of the village.
Can I suggest that that's an excellent idea? I was hoping we would deal with the letters of intent and support, and as I kind of hinted, I think there's subsequent direction today we might give staff to return to.
Also, thank you, Your Worship. I think the development team here mentioned that there is going to be public consultation throughout the process for the look and feel of the building. So that will speak to your concern about public input and perhaps a public hearing, maybe not as an official public hearing, but I do believe there's going to be public input.
Well, I know, I think we should go all the way. I think you're talking about form and character, getting feedback on that. I mean, a full public hearing on whether this is appropriate for us or not.
I think public hearings have a particular place and purpose and intent, and I'd look for some advice from staff, whether Mr. Cossey, I think, is probably hand on his unmute button to say, give us guidance on what public hearings are used for and if this is a good application. Go ahead, Mr. Cossey.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would not recommend that you have a public hearing per se, because a public hearing is usually done when you're going to do a rezoning. And we don't generally have any comments at this particular point in time because the design guidelines have already gone through the public's review, and that was accepted through the OCP that we just recently adopted. So, but you do have the ability under the development procedures to have meeting notification where the developer can go out and talk to the crowd or the community. And this has already been indicated by the design team that they were going to do this anyhow. But I would step back a little bit on regards to having them talk about the design, the form and character of it. Because we don't really have an advisory panel in place. We just have an APC that deals with zoning issues, which are different from a design guideline perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Cossey. Councillor Swinebans, part of my, I think, I'm getting to probably the same point is I think there's a need for public input, particularly on this project and to design how it looks. But I think for council, the bigger picture is how this project fits into the use of lands going forward, which was my point, I think, saying we'd probably give some guidance and direction to staff to return with how would this fit into the community lands master plan and how are we advancing those ideas that are found there. So we could take that to the community with saying, my concept would be, here's the proposal for the seniors housing unit, how it fits on this block of land, and informed by the lands master plan, what other things are going to happen and how it's going to look. And of course, answer the questions about
Right.
parking.
Well, Mayor, if you don't mind,
Yeah, go ahead.
before we go on, like, what are we voting on today? Is it just to send a letter of intent, letter of support? Like, we're not approving this development today.
Correct.
Those decisions will come later. We're just voting today to send this letter of intent. If a future council or our council in 6 months decides maybe this isn't for us, no offense, we can still make that decision in 6 months. Is this correct?
This is, as I understand, this is not a binding final decision.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's right. So what will happen is if this gets approved and BC Housing gives us the allocation off the back of the funding application, the next step within BC Housing is there's a provisional project approval milestone. And in order to get that, we have to have the development permit in hand. And that whole process of design and the development permit is where we have consultation. And this would basically be coming back in, speak to it.
Okay, so if we have another opportunity to reflect on this and all the details like parking and form and character, and all that, then I don't need to waste everybody's time today. We can come up with motions.
Not a waste of time. There are, this is.
It's just more work. I have lots of
This
concerns.
is a big, this is a big decision,
Yeah.
and this is a step towards making decisions about how this land's going to be used, and we should do it informed. And I think we've heard all of us say we have lots of questions how this is going to fit in. Go ahead, Councillor
I'm just
Fancher.
going to make one comment, Your Worship, with
Sure.
respect. Let's vote on this. Let's move forward.
Yeah.
And I want to see that building there. From my perspective, there's too much going around that maybe whether we want it, we don't want it. I think there's something the public is wanting. We've had the civic master plans. We've had these people telling us we've got the percentages of people at the open houses who have voted in favor of moving forward with this land here. This other piece of parking, I'll bring it up a little bit later. We keep concentrating on this parking all the time. It's driving me crazy. Let's go ahead. This is just to do the letter so they can get this, hopefully this grant moving. The rest will come to us later. There's more to do on this. We all appreciate that. Let's just move ahead with what the proposal is here and let these good people go ahead and get their grant in by the 31st. And then we'll hear later on, we'll hear if it's September, if they're successful, and then move on forward from there. And of course, they're going to have their own, like Mr. Cossey said, their own public meeting, as we do with many developers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fancher.
Sorry.
Councillor Violet.
Just one final
Yeah.
comment of this whole discussion. I am reminded many years ago when there was a very, very active community member in this village. He was actively involved Councillor Facio spoke about this individual prior. And I'm reminded at one meeting, this individual got up, spoke to council and said, us seniors have been asking for this for years and years and years. And actually took it to the point where shame on you, council, for not going forward with it. Final comment, Ms. Mayor Talon, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Viola. Corporate Officer,
Thank you.
is that sufficient clarification before I ask you to read the resolution and I call for a motion on it?
I think instead of this particular resolution, just based off of what's
Okay.
kind of come up, a suggested resolution might be if there's no amendments to the letter of intent itself, that the letter of intent be referred to legal counsel and that the mayor and CAO be authorized to execute the letter of intent upon legal counsel's review. That would be a recommended motion just based off of the conversation.
Moved.
Moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Vital. Is there any further discussion to that?
I
Maybe
didn't
just
know
read
that.
that.
Read
again.
as-
That went by
Right,
fast.
no problem. So the motion on the table is that the letter of intent be referred to legal counsel and that the mayor and CAO be authorized to execute the letter of intent upon legal counsel's review.
So we're voting on all this then, all these, okay.
Voting on referring the letter of intent to legal counsel and then upon that review, basically authorizing the mayor and the CAO to take that information and advice, make any edits as required and execute it in order to meet the timeline.
It's a motion to endorse the letter of intent following council.
If I may, Mayor
Go ahead,
Talon,
Councillor.
there's been, I really appreciate, as I said, the passion and the compassion, and I know that there's a need for this missing middle, if you will. And I appreciate the examples given. I just have a problem with the numbers and, like just quick on the napkin calculation here. My mother-in-law is moving from Ontario, moving into the Chartwell and the Esquimalt. She's gonna pay $4,500 a month, all inclusive. And between 21 and $32 million is what we're talking about in taxpayer money. You could send someone for 125 months to this Chartwell and the Esquimalt. I know it's not in the community, but I'm just wondering if there's somehow a better way to spend these funds. So what we're saying is we're gonna take residents who own $1 million homes and put them over here in a subsidized way. Because I have to explain to all taxpayers, not just the people the constituents that are gonna use this place. Because remember, it may be that only half of this is occupied by Harrison citizens in the end, maybe only a third. If we're talking about Harrison and Harris and Legacy people. I think the point is just the numbers to me don't make sense. I appreciate the passion and the compassion and everybody's time today. The proposal as it's designed right now, I don't think I can support.
Okay, noted your reservations.
question.
I'll call the question. Any further discussion? I see none. I'll say all in favor of the resolution. 4 in favor, opposed to the resolution, 1 opposed. The original resolution that was in item A for discussion was also provide a letter of support for the grant application. Does the letter of intent cover that, or is it just 2 documents? And I see some clarification on that.
There are 2 documents.
2 documents?
Support would be helpful.
Okay.
So that would be added to the 6 letters that we have from the community organizations.
A motion for a letter of support moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Vital. Any discussion on that motion for a letter of support? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor of a letter of support being issued. 4 in favor, opposed, 1 opposed. Noted. Councillor Fascio, item B, you wanted to speak to.
I'm just going to briefly, not going to carry too much into your worship. I just want to refer this to our staff that in regards to the plans that were shown to us for the civic lands regarding two buildings, one the proposed seniors complex and the other one was the proposed rental with the village office chambers and I think the recreation space underneath. I believe the CAO does have the information from the province regarding BC Build that we got from the minister. And it's, the last letter he sent to us was that at present, not that one, I would encourage you to contact BC Builds directly to share your proposed plan for their review and consideration. So what I'm asking just today is that if we could have maybe another meeting next month in regards to the other, I'll call it the other block, and discuss that. As far as the parking situation is concerned, we get many things out there, people saying illegal. Well, I think it's only illegal parking if you park for more than 48 hours. I drove down 2-3 streets this morning. There were 40 cars parked outside and they're not visitors. And we do have a chunk of land on Mount Street that was gifted to us by a developer. We did have a plan. I think it cost $50,000 to do remedial work there, but that could come back to council at some point if we wanted to turn that. That was proposed for a parking, overflow parking. So that we do have that chunk of land there as well, if we have a problem when we start losing parking from this land. So I'm just suggesting if, with yourself and the staff, you could arrange another date where we could discuss this after this meeting, and let us know. I would appreciate that, to discuss this, I'll call it the village block, because this one's being done by community services.
Yeah.
How we can proceed forward with BC Build. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fasher. I think you and I are almost talking about the same thing, just using different words. Is
Yeah.
how does, tell us the big picture and direct staff.
Yeah.
A question for the CAO, do you require, would a motion be helpful, something to that effect, or is the direction given today sufficient?
I think it would be great to have a motion identifying exactly what council's looking for, and also perhaps identifying whether you would like to have it come back to the next regular council meeting, or would you like to schedule a committee of the whole, or would you like to have, like, what type of meeting? The advantage of the committee of the whole is it's more of an informal discussion. We can really hash out details, and that'll give us some time. And I would recommend that we aim for probably September-ish, but I mean, it's up to your discretion, and that'll give us some time to get some data, because we do have some other ideas and also initiatives that are looking to improve our parking stock within the village. And it would require council's input, and we'd be happy to have it if we can have some time, especially with holidays and whatnot, to give us a little bit of time to compile this information, and then we can certainly do that. But if you want to propose
I'll make a motion, your worship, that that staff arrange a meeting in committee to hold in September, forward with all of council, to discuss the civic lands master plan overall in regards to another building for the village rental, and obviously a new office and chambers, and of course address the parking and whatever issues. And then at that time we may have some more information on the assessment of the work yard in regards to that, because if it is considered that it can't have people living on there, that's a large location when the work yard's moved for the overflow parking as well. So we do have areas when people are concerned about parking. We do have, there's 2 areas I've brought forward already that we could have overflow parking. And we also have to remember that village streets are available for parking as well. There's only 9 days of the year that we have a real overflow parking in the village. So I'll make that motion that we have a committee to hold in September, arranged by yourself and staff, to discuss the other projects on the civic lands.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Vital. Thank you, Councillor Fasher, for the motion. Discussion on that. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon, through you to our delegates. Can we expect some kind of an update in time for our a scheduled committee of the whole meeting in September? If so, I would like to invite representatives to come back to that meeting and provide an update to everyone.
That's 100%. Fine, more than fine. Just a note, it's the 11th of September from DC Housing.
Okay.
There has been quite the record of not quite meeting things like that.
Okay.
So I will absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion?
Mayor Talon, having said that, I'm gonna be out of the country as of the 19th of September, so if we could do it before then.
After the 11th and before the 19th.
Yes.
Still September, I got you.
I think UBCM is the week.
Oh, yeah,
Following,
somewhere
so-
there, you're right.
Yeah, so we need to.
Yeah.
know by then.
We'll, maybe, we'll aim for September. It sounds like
Yes.
we'll see if we have everything together.
You can't
Any other-
zoom in from Italy?
I guess, no.
Any further discussion? I'll call the vote on that motion. All in favor, and that carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, our presenters.
Thank you.
And at this point, before, if we can't adjourn yet, we have item 6, questions from, or comments from anyone in the gallery this morning.
Alison Douglas, I'm actually going to help the seniors in Galway declutter and get rid of some furniture, so I have to leave, so thank you so much, ladies, it's been amazing to listen to the information, thanks for all your questions and clarification, and the village staff is always awesome, so I appreciate it. So I'm on the Age Friendly Committee, I drive for community services, and the Community Response Network for Harrison only, so I deal with a lot of seniors, so I'm 100% support of this. The question I have, I asked this at Age Friendly, assisted versus independent. Because most of the seniors I've dealt with that have left this community have gone into assisted in Fort Langley and then dispersed to their family when they can get them there. So if it's assisted versus independent, does that make the application different?
Yeah, it does. So there's
So
currently not open, but there's a supportive housing fund and a community housing fund. So the community housing fund is for independent, not to mean that you can bring in your own care, the supportive housing fund, different pot of money, and part of it's got a much higher subsidy that goes into that to provide the services. And it's a higher build cost ordinarily because the building tends to have more staffing facilities or medical use, things like that.
Thank you. One other question, you said there's, in a 1 bedroom, it's only one person, not two, a couple can't go into the 1 bedroom? Okay, good. And the parking for the, where the operations yard is, environmentally is not okay, could you put parking there?
I think that answer to that question will be found when staff does the work with both our colleagues in ACR's Community Services and a whole bunch of other things following up on the motion we just passed for a future committee of the whole meeting.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
And I have to run.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Alison.
Jean.
I'm with the Agassiz Harrison Housing Society, and to be quite honest, this is our first bit of information, other than to say we were supportive of a project, which we were hoping for with that land.
Work sure.
We seriously need assisted living. Our question, we have 2 questions. One is, why did you go this way instead of this way with your housing plan? Was there a reason for that? Because this way still leaves the open area for the rest of the place.
Maybe Sarah
I can
Cook
speak
can
to
answer.
that, yeah. Thank you. That's actually a great question, but if you look at the way the lots are laid out, there's existing utilities that run down the middle. It's actually a dedicated legal laneway. Now, if you were to shift the building to go sideways, then of course that would require a legal boundary adjustment and as well as utility relocations.
And it could, but in theory, could be done.
It could, yes.
Okay, good point. Just to remember that, because some of us still really want that open space for other things. The other society question we have is, like, as a volunteer society, your programs are all volunteer programs, right? And managing an independent living program, which we know about, is very complex, and we have 3 staff and we can't even begin to cover, like just this week, 5 major incidents, like fires in the apartments and things like that. How are you gonna handle that? Have you got staff planning in?
Yeah, so we are not a volunteer run organization. So we
No, not volunteer.
we have 37 employees and we have 171 volunteers. So we would be adding professional resources. We do have our the staffing that we have to run programs are paid staff, professional paid staff.
So would they be able to be physically here for situations? Because what Mark's bringing up is totally valid.
Right.
I mean, does the fire department, you know about the project?
Yeah, absolutely, and we, so there would be a housing manager and then all the resources attached to that that are required. So that is everything from janitorial to the upkeep to, you know, needing to call in somebody to do an inspection on the elevator, like all that kind of stuff.
That's management, but we're talking people, the personal things that go on.
Yeah, absolutely.
With individuals, because
That's right.
Fraser Health can't do everything.
Yeah, and
we all know
Fraser
that.
Health would be in the building, but we would.
Just checking in on that, because we know that's a big part of it.
Yeah,
And this is a huge building you're talking about.
We
That's a lot of
we would
people.
never expect volunteers to run this building. It'll be run by professional staff.
And the other, I guess, the third sort of question to that part. Management. People, well,
Property management, caretaker.
well, no, we've got that in the building plans, that's.
That's okay. Thank you for your questions. Any other questions from anyone in the gallery? Thank you. Please go.
I'm Eugene Moretti. I live directly across. I will be the one resident that will be most affected by this construction. And so many things. First of all, you're aware that if you build up, anybody that lives in that building has to be able to, on their own, walk down the stairs for regular fire escape, fire exit, what is it called? Yeah, like drills. They have to be able to walk down without the use of a walker or anything, those stairs, they're fire drills, that's just one thing. The other thing is that seniors, as you know, don't all drive. So then they need a bank, good ambulance, they need a primary care clinic that's open 1 day a week for 6 hours is hardly what I would call adequate medical services. And we're, you know, this one road in and out has so many things that are gonna impede possibly the rapid exit for somebody who's in crisis that needs to be taken to a hospital. We're a long ways from the hospital. Agassiz has banks, a bank, it has pharmacies, it has two doctors, it has a lab, and I just can't even begin to tell you how adamantly opposed I am to this idea, how the businesses will be affected by the lack of parking. I'm not interested in having my street flooded with parking. It's way more than 9 days a year. I can tell you, because I live right there, that it's way more than 9 days a year that this parking lot has 100 to 200 cars parked in it. I completely oppose this. I'm gonna do everything in my power to try to shut this down. I don't want it. Seniors can't ask for something for years and years and years because they're dead over years and years. I'm a senior. 75% of the houses in Harrison are probably occupied by seniors. Where's the funding and granting to keep seniors in place? I would rather see funding go to home care providers that allow their seniors to stay in their home, not go into a temporary place where they sell their $1 million house and then get subsidized housing. It makes no sense to me. I just can't even begin to tell you how opposed I am to this and how I promise you I'm gonna do everything in my power to rally the residents to not approve this, not let it go through. Just like Mission had its new proposed city hall shut down by the people, this is my intent and I hope to be successful at it. And so thanks for hearing me out. Again, I'm gonna say, I am the one resident that is gonna be the most impacted by this, and I'm gonna have a concrete parking lot in my front yard. Like, we just bought here in August, moved here in August. We never would, I phoned the city hall to ask, what's the plans for this area? I was told, oh, nothing on the books. We never would have bought here. We put over $100,000 into our house. And frankly, now you've all made me cry, so I'm gonna leave. Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the gallery? Anyone online?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Mr. Webster, I'll allow him to.
Mr. Webster, can you hear us and comments?
Yes, I'd just like to say that I think the way BC Housing Registry works for this social housing, I think there's a list and there's over probably 21,000 people who are waiting or needing homes. And I don't think you're going to find that many of the residents of Harrison, how they sit financially, are not even going to be able to make it into this housing that you plan on building. So I just, hopefully people in Harrison who are voting for this or standing behind it realize that if they think they're going to get a unit, they're probably mistaken. And I don't think it's being sold to them correctly. I think it's being kind of whitewashed and they're being told the story.
Thank you, Mr. Webster, for your comments. I see Diane, like maybe to share something on that.
Yeah, just to clarify, so a certain percentage of those units are at market rates. So it is not assumed that everybody will be classified in that core housing need. But we have the data that actually proves that there are individuals who will qualify for the below market rent highly subsidized levels. And those numbers have been verified. So in terms of, it was not ever our intent to whitewash anything, but in fact to reflect the data that had been presented by professional housing studies to meet the need. And I think in doing so, this is where the match has come. But what are the percentages again? Market, how many?
20% is for deep subsidy, which is, that's basically people that are on around less than 33,000 a year or have that level of wealth. And then there are 30% at market rate. And I think that's actually quite a high cap. I can't remember what the figure is at the top of my head, but I think it might be somewhere like 80 to 100K a year per household. And then there are 50% at low to moderate income. And I can't remember what the figure is. This is all publicly available information, but I cannot remember what the last figure is in my head.
Right, so it is a mix and the data does prove that there is need for this kind of housing. So yeah, I just wanted to assure that person that we didn't kind of take information out of a hat and not look at the data.
Thank you.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Tell, and I think it's important that we keep in mind that even though certainly some of our seniors may currently live in million homes, when they decide to downsize, there is an option to move into more private facilities such as Chartwell, or if they have the finances available to them. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this housing project is meant for those seniors who may not have the financial means in order to move to a private, a private independent living facility. And am I on the right track here,
Yes.
Diane?
That's what means tested. Yeah, it is means tested and the data shows there is a need in your spots.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Talbot.
Excuse me,
Question, Mr. Webster.
is there an age limit upon this? What is classed as a senior for this project?
55 plus.
55 and older is a senior, Mr. Webster.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. I meant to ask that earlier. I mean, I was going to ask for a friend, but I'm glad you.
Ken has.
Mr. Cossey.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd also like to point out that when we were doing the last official community plan, when we created the new one, we heard at a lot of the public meetings and a lot of the drop-in sessions that we had about having aging in place for the citizens of Harrison. And as a matter of fact, we've taken it one step further, and we have goal number 8 in our official community plan to address that issue. And the goal number 8 is goal number 8 is to provide for a mix of housing types for all ages and incomes. The strategy to achieve this goal is to designate lands for a variety of housing types and to provide density bonusing incentives for affordable and special groups housing. A diverse supply of housing, including seniors housing, is important to the future character of the community. And this is what we heard. This is the information that we took back to the community, and this was supported by the community and then adopted by council recently.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cossey. Comment from the gallery. Please. Thank you.
But, so I work at AC Harrison Community Services. I've been running the seniors programs for over 11 years now. And so we currently are offering services to Harrison residents of housekeeping, transportation, free meals and food bank, our senior lunch, our family visiting, our shopping shuttle, our friendly phone, and more. That's just the outreach that we do. Then we also have services in our building as well. We frequently get inquiries about housing all the time. And it's not always seniors who are looking for assisted living or independent living. Sometimes it's just they're looking for a really nice, affordable, safe place to live. That's it. And I have had seniors in Harrison, my clients, who have had months to try and find a place because they were being rent-evicted and couldn't find anything and ended up having to leave their community and move to Chilliwack. It was heartbreaking for them. I heard from this woman every 4 to 6 weeks, she was calling me, seeing if I had any help, if I'd had any word from anyone else about it. And so it's happening here. And as far as the like income and whether there be any clients here or residents who would be able to qualify for that, most of my clients who are accessing our programs their income is $22,000 or less. That's why they're able to get the housekeeping and all these services from us. And so I just wanted to reach out and say that this is what's happening now. And one of the things about all of our United Way programs, which most of our senior programs are United Way, the whole purpose of them is to allow seniors to age in place. And that's the thing. And so it's not always about whether it's assisted living, because there's always home care available. There's all these services. We pick people up here in Harrison to take them shopping. We take them to doctor's appointments. We take them to Abbotsford. We take them to Vancouver. All of these services we're already providing to seniors in this community. This is just going to allow seniors to have just a really nice, decent place to live so that they can stay in their community. So that was all. Just
Thank you very much for your comment. Please.
Hi, everyone. I'm with Fraser Health, and I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't just stand for a moment to share some of our reasoning for why we wanted to support this project and express our support in providing a letter. But before I even get into some of the reasoning, if I may just take a moment to kind of give you an overview, because Fraser Health is a huge organization. And one of the reasons why I didn't jump in is that's outside of the scope of the team that I'm a part of. So if I may just kind of share some of that, I will say that, so I'm part of the Population and Public Health Division, and they have a Healthy Built Environment team, which has recently expanded, and we've expanded in order to provide better support to municipalities and community partners in the area of trying to ensure that we develop towards building healthy environments for communities, that we foster healthy, sustainable, resilient communities. And so this is what the focus of my team is, and I'm relatively new, so they created these new positions. I'm the community engagement lead for Fraser East, which includes the village of Harrison. So I mentioned that only to say that, you know, please keep us in mind. Please leverage us, myself and the team, if there's any way that we can support all of this, you know, great work and be a part of these discussions, which I know are very important. So moving on to some of the reasoning why we supported this project, I will say that with respect to, you know, the population trends that we're seeing, we know that the village of Harrison, which has been mentioned a number of times now, is an aging community. In less than 2 years, that's going to be the largest age group here, and that's 65 and up. It's going to be even larger if you consider the 65 and up age group. We also know that over 15% of seniors in the region are considered low income, and some of that conversation has already been unpacked quite a bit. And I just learned from Diane in a meeting that I was in yesterday with her that, or maybe was it 2 days ago? I can't remember now. But that they're also a demographic group, and I think this kind lady also spoke to this. They're a demographic group that are increasingly needing access to food supports. And so that's quite telling in terms of what the needs are for seniors in this community. So all of this certainly points to the need that we need to ensure that seniors, soon to be the largest age group here in Harrison, they have access to affordable housing to protect and promote health, but also to support their ability to age in place, right? So we also know that aging in place is something that, it's something that we like to promote at Fraser Health, because we know that it promotes emotional well-being, and it's because it preserves that familiar surrounding. It preserves a sense of autonomy so that folks have control over their lives, and has the effect of reducing depression. I mean, there's evidence for a lot of this. It leads to better social and physical outcomes through maintaining community ties and fostering that social engagement, that continued social engagement in their communities. And so for all of those reasons, it has those health and well-being benefits that we like to be behind and support. We also know that diverse and affordable housing is critical. It's critical to preventing disease. It's critical to improving physical, mental, and social well-being. And when it's done in a way that's meaningfully designed, it also has the impact to mitigate climate change and to enhance the quality of life for all residents. And I know that there was some discussion around certain design principles that will be taken into consideration to foster some of this. Would love the opportunity to continue to be a part of those conversations, obviously. But I think, you know, it's probably not the place to discuss those in detail, but I do want to underscore that, you know, some of the discussion around mixed use design principles, you know, designing for open space, for amenity rooms, where that natural landscaping is really important to encourage, you know, walking and to improve cardiovascular health. It's really important for, you know, encouraging social interaction so that we create like a vibrant life here in the village, a vibrant and connected community. It also gives an opportunity to expand tree canopy, which is really important to mitigate heat. And to improve, you know, biodiversity in the area. So anyway, that's just a sort of sampling of some of the healthy built environment design principles that we can sort of put into place to create a very vibrant, affordable senior housing development project. But just to reiterate, so Fraser Health is in support of this senior housing project, and would love to be, again, part of the conversations around design when those are ready to be had. And just thank you for allowing me to chime in here.
Thank you for sharing that. Any other questions on,
We could ask if they want to raise their hands, but I don't see any with their hands
no one else participating remotely? And I see your hand, so please.
Okay, thank you. My name is Eunice. I am the community connector at ISC Harrison Community Services, and it is under the social prescribing program. The social prescribing program has certain criteria to serve the seniors that are in need. Some of these are isolation, and they don't have a lot of informal support around them to be a senior, and low income. I am also a resident of Harrison, and so from April until July, I have 58 active clients between Agassiz and Harrison. 20 of them live in Harrison. And I have seen about, I would say in the last year, 15 seniors that have moved out to Chilliwack because there is no housing. And even though some seniors are living in $1 million house, there is also trailer parks that are around us, and they are facing food insecurity because there is no income for our seniors. Even though we help them with CPP, GIS, OAS, they still not having enough money for food security. Therefore, there's not affordable housing around here. So I just want to second what my colleagues have talked about. And the housing model, it would help to reduce the isolation, and they would have support of one another. It would create that community within seniors, and it would be a great place for community services to also come and continue serving them. These seniors are not just alone, right? Fraser Health is behind them, and we work really closely with Fraser Health as well. So yeah, I just wanted to speak that it is an urgent need that has been going on for years, and it just continues to grow. And that's everything.
Thank you for sharing that, appreciate it.
Okay.
No one else online, no hands raised.
Great.
Seeing that, motion to adjourn, Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. All in discussion, all in favor, and we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you.